Dear viewer, good evening and welcome to Spotlight. With us tonight, our senator, our favorite senator, Senator Gary Peters. Mr. Peters, Senator Peters, welcome again to MEA.
Well, it's always a pleasure to be with you, Wally. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. These days, everybody excited about the elections, and honestly, we never seen election like this. We never seen a person that when he start, and that who should be his best, when he start campaigning, he almost went against everybody, against the African American, the Latino, the Muslim, the Arab, all the foreigner, or the woman, the gay. He put majority of American against him. But again, we seen Hillary Clinton obstacle after obstacle. And we seen a person with all the division he made in America, like Trump, almost that even. How you could tell me how that could happen?
Well, it is an election that will probably go down right to the election day, which is what we're seeing.
Yes.
And when you look at this election, I think you've never seen such a dramatic contrast between two candidates like we see in this election throughout, at least in my memory, throughout my history. And certainly I'm a strong supporter of Hillary Clinton. I believe she'll be an excellent president. And for all the reasons you mentioned about Donald Trump, who has been about division, he's been about dividing people, he's been about...
She should up by 20 points,
well,
honestly.
And hopefully that's what will happen when we have the election. You know, polls are a lot more difficult than they have been in the past in order to know what they'll say. So, you know, polls are still important. I still follow them. But ultimately, there's only one poll that's going to matter, and that's on election day when people show up. So I hope that not only does she win, but she wins big. And the simple fact that I believe as a country that we are stronger together, which is her slogan, which is true, that the diversity of our country makes us great. It's why we are such a great place, that people from all over the world come to the United States to pursue their vision of the American dream, whatever it may be. And certainly here in the greater Detroit area, we know the Muslim American, Arab American community is a critical component of who we are. It's part of our strength as a region. And the type of rhetoric, the type of things that Mr. Trump has talked about, I don't believe represent who we are as a country. But we need to prove that on election day, which is why it's extremely important that everybody gets out and votes. That's the only poll that's going to matter when they go to the polls.
Okay, of course, nationwide, and we talked about nationwide, and yes, the Muslim and the Arab American, they contribute so much to society in every aspect of the life, honestly. And we are part of this combination called America, you know. But in Michigan, and we are a senator from Michigan because this program goes over nationwide. Senator from Michigan, how you see Michigan is going to go?
Well, I believe Michigan will vote Democratic. I believe Hillary Clinton will win here. But again, it's just so important everybody shows up to vote. And this is an important election, probably one of the most important ones that we've seen because of this clear division, this clear contrast between these two candidates. And ultimately, I believe Michigan will vote Democratic, but that's only if everybody who believes that we need to make a strong statement that we're stronger together, everybody has to get out to vote.
Honestly, I look at the Michigan, and more than 30% to 40% of Michigan is multiplied of many ethnic minorities.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And those all ethnic minorities are a threat by a person who think only white American could have all the benefit that America offer. The rest of them, they're all foreigner and they should be leave.
Well, absolutely, and you know, in the statements that he's made, particularly for Muslim Americans, that he would say that we should not allow any Muslims into the country to have a religious test as to who could come into the United States of America.
That's what I'm doing.
Our founding fathers were very clear that the government would have no religious test, that this was a country where everybody, no matter what your religion may be, that you're welcome here. You're welcome as an American citizen. Your rights will be protected. And to have somebody who's running to be the President of the United States saying that we would put a religious test, and in particular for Muslim Americans, is outrageous. It's clearly unconstitutional, which is why people have to get up and say, we will not tolerate that.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about foreign relation and all that. The situation in Iraq. And you know what, the Obama administration and the whole coalition supporting the Iraqi government and Peshmerga together at Mosul. How do you see the situation there? Do you think we're going to get rid of ISIS and then we go to Syria and get rid of ISIS there and it's over, or you think it's going to be a struggle for a long time to come?
Well, I think there's probably a lot of challenges, and even beyond ISIS. I'm confident we're going to be continuing to pursue aggressively ISIS. We're seeing that in Mosul.
Yes.
Things seem to be progressing well there. And it's really a continuation. The territory that ISIS has controlled has continually been shrinking over a period of time. Mosul is a key place as well. And I think you're going to continue to see coalition forces pushing back on ISIS and eventually going into Syria. But we always have to be worried about other groups that could spring up, other acts of terrorism. I serve on the Homeland Security Committee, as you know, and so we have to make sure that our borders are always secure. We have to make sure that we are tracking down those individuals that want to cause harm, not just to Americans, but other folks around the world.
Absolutely.
And so we'll never be able to let down our guard. But I'm very confident that we'll be making significant progress against ISIS.
Okay. In Iraq, you have the Peshmerga, the KRG, and you have the Iraqi. They are ally of U.S., and we're working together with them. How are you going to do it in Syria with the Raqqa, with the regime of Bashar al-Assad, with the Russian involvement there?
Well, it's very difficult, obviously. We have a government that we aren't going to be working with the Assad regime, and you've got the Russians that are complicating it. There's some Free Syrian forces that are engaged in it, but it's really, in my mind, one, we should be looking at creating some safe zones where the citizens are safe. As you know, I traveled to the Middle East recently and talked on a previous program about visiting some of the Syrian refugee camps, and folks just want to go home. They want to be able to live in some peace and to have some security. But the world community needs to continue to come together, and we need to work collectively, and certainly a lot of the leadership when it comes to Syria needs to come from our Arab American allies, and or Arab, I should say, Arab allies in the Middle East. In order
Arab and Muslim ally that Trump's going against them.
Absolutely. Yes. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Those are the allies that we need to be driving that, and we're all in it together.
Exactly. How about the Russian return and a little bit dominate the area, and of course ally with Iran and Hezbollah and all that? How are you going to work toward that? This is an important issue to the community, to the Middle Eastern community.
Well, I'm very concerned about the Russian involvement. Russian involvement not just in the Middle East, but also you're seeing it in Europe as well.
Exactly.
I was back from Ukraine,
Georgia, and all those
areas. Estonia. A recent trip that I had was in Ukraine, and as you know, the Russians are in Crimea, that legally have taken over Crimea. While we were there in Ukraine, they were fighting on the eastern border and killing Ukrainians while we were there. And I will say that back to the election, the Ukrainian people are probably watching the American presidential election as close as Americans, and they wondered, how could you have a candidate in Donald Trump who believes Putin is a good guy when he has been invading countries illegally, taking over area, causing real problems in the Middle East.
And not just Ukraine, Georgia and Estonia and all that. We used to be the Eastern Bloc of Europe, you know.
Absolutely. And when I was in Estonia, for example, we were there and in Tallinn, which, as you know, is maybe an hour and a half from the Russian border, the capital of Estonia. It's a very small country. A small country that has lived under Soviet domination, that lived under Nazi domination, now have freedom. And they are also watching this presidential election very closely. And the question they asked me was, how can you have an American candidate for the presidency say that NATO, maybe we won't support certain NATO allies. We pick and choose which countries we support. And of course they're terrified. Does that mean the Americans won't support Estonia, which is part of the NATO alliance, if the Russians could move in there? And that makes us weak. If we don't let the Russians know in very strong terms that we stand by our allies, America has always and always will be, in my mind, a beacon of liberty and freedom, and we stand strong with our allies, and we will not tolerate illegal aggression from the Russians. So that's also on the ballot.
And we need to support the Western Union. I mean the European Union.
Right.
Otherwise, you know, by themselves, they prove over and over they don't have the power to match Russia.
Right. Right. No, we need to be strong and continue to do that.
Okay, Senator. A lot of people say Donald Trump. He's a businessman. He will help the small business. his idea, my support, less taxes, less regulation, and all that. What's your answer to that?
Well, I don't see evidence of what he will do. If you look at his policies, you look at his business practices, he has declared bankruptcy several times.
Okay.
That's usually not a sign of someone who's running a good business, and in the process he's stiffed,
buying steel from China to build his...
he doesn't buy American, he sends his products to be made overseas. He talks about making America great. I said, well, it starts with actually buying American products made by American companies and American workers, not having them produced in foreign countries. As you mentioned, buying Chinese steel as opposed to American steel. And you look at him not paying small business contractors that do work for his business. He stiffs them. A small business
not
needs
file
to get
income
paid.
tax for years and,
And
paying
not
his
file
share of what he owe in income tax.
Right, right. In fact, he talks about one of the problems we have in this country is that workers are getting paid too much money. I don't know many workers who think they're getting paid too much money, and that's the problem of the country. In my mind, it's not workers getting paid too much money. I think he's absolutely wrong there. I think what is a problem, though, is when you're a CEO that does not pay taxes, that's a problem.
That's right. And for him not to pay the worker, that's why he say he's making enough money, because he's paying, he want to pay less than an average worker.
Right.
Senator, you've been with the Middle Eastern community. You know the community for 20 years. You've been working with them. I see you in every event, talking to the people in the community, getting to understand them. And honestly, you become a very good friend of the community. And you have the trust of the community.
Thank you.
And it's in this very important election. I know you are fighting time and you have to attend different function, but what's your message to the community? This community that know you for so long, give you the trust, and I'm pretty sure they're going to listen to you and vote. They'll take the advice from you, where to vote. So go ahead, please.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and certainly I'm very humbled and honored.
It's the truth.
Well, thank you, and humbled and honored to really be able to be with this community and be active participant and over many, many years.
Yes.
And what I know of the Muslim American, Arab American community, it's very family oriented, it's small business oriented. The folks are proud to be Americans and have come here to build their life. And we need to protect that, and I think that's really what's at stake in this election. And you don't, I don't need to tell folks that. All you have to do is listen to Mr. Trump and the words that have come out of his own mouth, that he is not going to be inclusive. It's not going to be about bringing everybody together to make a stronger country. And I think that is essential for us to do. It's essential for us to fight for. And we have to make that strong statement when it comes to election time.
Absolutely. Bring everybody together. He already distanced himself from about 10 different groups. And if it's the woman, if it's all the ethnic minorities, if it's the worker, so he distanced himself from the start from all. So how are you going to bring them all together?
Right.
So
and he has no specific ideas, as you know. And anybody who would really want to take a look at the contrast, all you have to do is watch the 3 presidential debates. It was very clear that he did not offer any specifics as to what he would do. He made broad statements but could not back it up. Yes. Versus Hillary Clinton, who has the experience, she has the temperament, incredibly thoughtful, and has very well thought out ideas of how you make America move forward.
I ask you, he should win by 20 point, but do you think it's going to be a tight election, or it's easy election for Clinton?
Well, it should be an election where Hillary Clinton wins by a large margin, but I always want to say that that's only if everybody shows up and votes at the voting booth. So I believe that's who we are as a country. I believe that we are about looking at bringing everybody together to be stronger. But we have to demonstrate that, and the only way we can demonstrate that, in no uncertain terms, is to show up and vote and make sure your voice is heard. Absolutely.
Senator, thank you very much for coming here. And again, honestly, I thank you on behalf of the community for all the effort, that you understanding the issue of the community and fighting for their issue and being with the community when they need you. when they need you. A lot of politicians, when we need them, they're not there. But you've been with the community when we need you. And thank you very much for that.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pleasure to be with you.
Sure. Dear viewers, that was my interview with Senator Gary Peters, our state senator from the state of Michigan, Gary Peters, that for 20 years he's been with the community. He's been helping the community. He's been tackling the issue that's related to the community. And he was defending us when he was in Michigan, and when he went to Washington, he was defending all the issues that are related to the Middle Eastern community. And he's asking you to go and vote. Please go and vote. You could vote whatever you want, Republican, Democrat, but when you see from a Trump, I think you should vote Democrat. So, but please go and vote. Thank you for watching, and good night.